try to fight it. You just can't deny it. Try not to hide it. Come follow me now. Are you sick and tired of all the waiting? Are you sick and tired of all the hating? Are you sick and tired of all the waiting? Are you sick and tired of all the hating? Are you sick and tired of all the faking? Come down this road with me. Come follow me now. Are you sick and tired of all the waiting? Are you sick and tired of all the hating? Are you sick and tired of all the faking? Come down this road with me. Come down this road with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another meeting hosted by LifeForce. My name is Stefan Rao, more commonly known as Tank, and with us today is the entire LifeForce Global Network crew, and we're going to talk about a lot of amazing things that are happening in a world where it seems like things are falling apart. They're actually falling into place. So with that in mind, if you've never been on the LifeForce call before, LifeForce is an association, a network, if you will, of like-minded individuals that have come together from all over the world who are all diligently working to change the world. There are all types of things that are needed, from science and technology to actually restoring proper self-governance, which we'll talk about today. And obviously our health is a major concern. The financial system is a major concern, and actually taking back the media, because investigative journalism and the truth in media is something that has essentially been lost. And not to take second to anything is also child family restoration, which eventually in the not so distant future will take the place of Child Protective Services, which really does anything but protect children. So we're going to talk about that today and get things kicked off, because there is nothing more pressing right now in the entire world than the medical tyranny that they're trying to impose on everyone. So we will have an update from the Global Health and Wellness Consortium Director, Lisa Thomas.
Okay, can you all hear me?
And her vice.
And Michael Lane. So Michael Lane, hello everybody. Michael Lane is my Assembly Health and Liaison thread, person, not thread, excuse me, I was reading a note here. He is going to be the connection between the assemblies and the health and wellness people that have been assigned to the assembly for that assembly. So we've been getting a lot of questions about, we do have a new thread. We've been a lot of questions is how do they connect with us? So we will have an update out tomorrow with a new email address, which will be a place for all of the assemblies to forward their health and wellness person to us. Well, one of our people's out today that does our email. So we'll have a new one out tomorrow. We'll post that. And so that'll be a place where Michael Lane will be able to have a weekly meeting or updates with all of the assembly health and wellness liaisons. But what we were asking people to do is forward that from your assembly, showing that you are the one person that has been assigned to that position, whether you're ratified or unratified. And that Michael will be able, and Michael does many other things as well for us, but that will be he'll be the person that you see on a regular basis, giving updates and so forth to the assemblies and working with me, doing shows and different things like that. So that will be posted. If you go to our website at ghwc.global, at the bottom right, contact us. There is actually, there'll be another email for that, but we'll post it tomorrow. But there is a way to join our thread for all the updates that come from our division, in addition to this LifeForce call, and we'll post them all there. So if you guys want to go there, it's ghwc.global. And then we did another show this last week. It's in editing now. It should be out in the next day or a couple days or so. And it's called Connect the Dots. So what that show was is really about teaching people how to look for themselves, connect their own dots and say, if I'm sick, what happened prior that allowed me to get sick, whether it was a physical abuse or a vax or whatever that is. And so we did a show on that with all the symptoms that people are having, and really how to do their own work to find that information. So that'll be out in the next couple of days, and all the updates will be on that Telegram thread as well. And then also, Michael, let's talk a little bit about the video that we both saw. I know Mike, our producer, can probably play that for just a moment, and then we'll talk about that, if you don't mind. Mike and Michael. So Michael Lane is on camera and Mike is behind the scenes. So sorry about that, guys. Sorry.
Alex Berenson has been covering this almost alone on Substack. He joins us now for his reporting. Alex Berenson, what is this?
We're at a very dangerous moment, Tucker. And, I'm not exaggerating. I think this is probably the most important appearance I've had with you in the last 2 years. It is completely clear now that the vaccines don't really work at all against Omicron. In these highly vaccinated and highly boosted countries, rates of infection are incredibly high, and rates of serious disease and death are also rising. The Israelis are predicting that they're going to have more serious cases than they ever had at the peak last year. And the idea that we would solve this with another booster is just off the charts insane. I have not said this to you before because I'm pretty careful, and I'm pretty careful with the data. But these vaccines, these mRNA vaccines, the mRNA COVID vaccines, need to be withdrawn from the market now. No one should get them. No one should get boosted. No one should get double boosted. They are a dangerous and ineffective product at this point.
Wow. Michael Lane, everything to say to that?
That's pretty much a wow moment. I mean, even for Fox, what struck me, Lisa, is that's a pretty statement for Fox to even put that out.
I would agree with you.
Literally pull these things off the market, which many of us know should have happened long ago. But it's another step to me moving forward that hopefully some people are waking up to it.
Yeah, hopefully our show Connect the Dots will help them as well. It is nice to see it on mainstream news, getting out that it's dangerous. And he referenced just that the Omicron, but it's all the variants, that they're ineffective, as we know, and they're dangerous. So it's just nice to see it there. It's nice to see that it's on mainstream news. So it's a big leap forward for us that we get to see that. The other thing is Michael and I have been kind of following the AB 1400 bills, in all the different states, and kind of monitoring that. Last week, it had gotten passed in California through the assembly part of it, and it was going to be, I think, a 300 plus billion tax increase for the state of California. It did squash out in the last couple of days, where there are 19 other states with that same bill that are already in effect. And of course, moving forward, they're going to try and do it in every state. So I think it really speaks, Michael, to just why we need assurance so badly. If that would have passed, there would have been the highest tax. California is already the highest tax rated state in the union in the United States. And it would have doubled, I think, for people, the tax rate. And it would have taken private healthcare away from people, and it would have been government funded and government issued. So I think we can all imagine what that would be like if our government had to fund our healthcare and they were in charge of appointments and timing. I think we would not have great healthcare. So for those that are watching, we're doing everything we can behind the scenes to get assurance ready. And as soon as it is ready, we are going to bring it to the people, which, as we know, will be no cost for healthcare global. I was trying to explain this to somebody last week, and they said, "Oh, it sounds like socialism." And I said, no, it's not a forced thing. You can still have your own insurance. You can pay for that if you like. We're just going to offer you health care at no charge to every person and every pet on the planet. And that's kind of our goal. That's what we're working on behind the scenes, to bring that to everybody. So hang tight, guys. We're doing our best and doing everything we can. So anything else, Mike?
Well, what was ironic about that bill that California was trying to pass through, they were going to have to convince Washington to give up all their Medicare and Medicaid money that they receive from California.
Yeah.
Because in that bill, even if you're on Medicare, you come off of it and you're going to go on to the single payer system. So
Yes.
to convince the federal government to give up money, that would have been interesting to do too.
Yes.
And
exactly.
the initial bill was, I think, 163 billion. But then as they got through it, They were estimating if they were to implement it at this current time, it would be from 314 billion. Let's see, I had
Or
the
maybe
numbers.
390 billion, something
Yeah, up
like
to
that.
380, 390 billion. I mean, that's just insane. That more than doubles what the California budget is now. So the whole thing is just, luckily it fizzled out.
The last day or two.
Yesterday, yeah, it fizzled out. But I think you mentioned 19 other states, I think, have proposals.
Currently have it. Yeah, the progressive states, the blue states all currently have it. Washington, New York, that kind of thing. But they're going to be trying to add it everywhere. So we kind of monitor that. So kind of good to hear that didn't pass for the Californians.
Yes.
I'm originally from California. I know how expensive taxes are there. So that did fizzle. But anyway, that's why we're bringing assurance to the people and giving them choices that won't cost them anything, but will actually be a reverse model of the current medical system. So if people, the doctors will be incentivized to how well their patients are, not how sick they are, and that's how they're going to get paid. So it's, I would encourage the doctors and the holistic practitioners to start getting ready to treat their patients the best way possible and get compensated that way. So that's our goal. So that's all we have for today. Again, we'll put out a post tomorrow on the threads with an email for those liaisons for assemblies to reach out to us. And once we have that list confirmed and updated, we'll start doing updates for the assemblies specifically. So thank you for
be looking forward to seeing those emails come in too. Yeah, for those liaisons. That'd be nice.
That'd be great. So thanks, Michael, for joining me today. And that's all we have for today. Thank you, guys. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa and Michael. I appreciate that. Now, the email will be posted on the ghwc.global website. That should be up, Lisa said, tomorrow, so that people can go there. It's really important for the assemblies to have a health and wellness representative. One of the biggest things that's happening is we're going to have to restore people's health, especially after the damage that is not quite, we're not exactly sure what it's going to look like yet with the vaccines, right? As well as the psychological damage and deprogramming. So life force assurance is going to be really, really important. So your assembly should be working on that now actively. And we'll talk about that after we hear from the interim head of states and ground commander, Miss Kimberly Ann Gogan.
Hi, everyone. So it's been a busy week. It's been a busy 2 weeks, I guess, since we did a Life Force call. There's been a couple of special announcements that kind of breezed over a few things because we had to get them out right away, not only to you, but also to our enemy. Because we're talking to everybody when we're talking, even right now, right? Or people that think that they're our enemy. So I wanted to kind of get started on a few things here. I've got a laundry list and a stack to go over. Oh, yeah. So I'm here, right? You can hear me?
You good? Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. Someone just typed. Okay. So, all right. Let's talk about a few things that were in place because it's important to understand. So in the entire world, there are many sets of what we call books, which monitor the amount of currency. And she's saying, am I on mute? No. Well, this is our first time using this, so bear with us, guys. Okay. All right. So there are many sets of books that are held on currency. And what a set of books actually does is it basically lets you know exactly to the penny or to the pound or to the pence, right? Or to the peso, how much currency is in circulation. Now, you would think, well, if you were to look at it and you would say to yourself, well, the central bank probably has a set of books, right? In the US, everybody thinks the Federal Reserve is only for the United States, but it's not. It was the pass-through from the back system through to the rest of the world that included every single currency in the world. There is no currency that is an exception, whether that's hard cash in your hand or it's actual cash, digital cash. And I'm not talking about cryptocurrency. I'm talking about the numbers you see in your bank account, right? So it monitors every single dime all the time. There were parties like, for example, for the US dollar, we would have had the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, Echelon systems. The Promise system was another one, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. That was the Clintons' baby, and many other systems around the world. So there was about 30 to 40 in total on US dollars, and there are probably the equivalent in every single country, at least most of what you would consider to be the G20, for sure. So there was a lot of duplicity there because there's no reason for having the Treasury Department, the General Office of Accounting, the FBI, the CIA, probably the Post Office. Just kidding, not the Post Office, but just about everybody, every government department had access to this set of books. And so anytime a new dime or a new dollar would come into the system, they would get an alert, which was part of our issue in the first place. So we reset how that is done and tied that only to the key integrated monetary system and disconnected it from all the other places it was reporting, because it's really, honestly and truly none of their business now. So the whole idea behind what we've been working on, not only today, but over the last, I would say, several years and several weeks and several months, is getting rid of the control system at the highest level. So we reset those books on the 20th, and that kind of made all these different departments and agencies blind. So now they can no longer see any new money going into the system, but the key integrated monetary system, rest assured, will make sure that no erroneous money comes into the system, because that could also be a problem, such as super notes of, what do you call duplicate cash, right? Or forgeries of any currency in the world. It monitors for all of that, and it's looking for it, whether it's paper or it's digital. So we will know, right? So anything that goes into circulation and then eventually to deposit. So also on the 20th, we had a lot more fallout from that agreement that we mentioned, which we're calling the source agreement, right? It was the agreement to have two different sides of the universe, both the dark side and the light side, right? So as part of that, there was a group which everybody seemed to be afraid of. They were called the Council of Elders, or the Council of Nine. So this group's job was to do nothing but enforce that covenant. And the reason why this is important for all of you is because it allowed for a secondary covenant called the JAIQS, which is dueling quantum systems. So we had an extremely dark AI and then an extremely light AI. So even myself, I was under the impression, well, I knew about the archons. We've talked about that before. We knew about a lot of the dark AI systems, but in totality, I thought the alpha back system, the one that I work with all the time, was the only system, but it wasn't. So this dark AI system was equally as competent. This is the one that DARPA was trying to connect to the quantum financial systems, Starlink, so on and so forth. And it was tied to what you would call the black screen or the control screen, right, for the dark AI system. It also had some ties to vaccine nanobots and many other things that were all of its creation. But the other thing it was doing too is it was powering the dark side of the financial system, or the front end. So where we had the back end, they had the front end. And this has left us for years in a Mexican standoff between the two. So that was also powering a lot of backdoors into the system. And, I'm going to go over a few of them today. I'm not going to go over all of them that it was powering, but some of them are names that are familiar to you and some of them are not. So there are different types of technologies that have been eliminated. So this dark AI system, once that covenant was broken, the one we mentioned in the special report, it started dissipating. So it took until, I think it was yesterday or the day before, for it to completely and totally dissipate. So positive thing is, we shouldn't be having those crazy nightmares and those crazy dreams and all of these things anymore. So that's a positive. I know it's for me. I'm sure it is for you too. As it dissipates, we've been spending, I've been spending, and a few others have been spending somewhat about 16 to 20 hours a day. And sometimes programs run overnight, picking up the pieces or getting rid of the pieces. So we decide if it's a valuable asset or not, and we either pick it up and take it over, or we get rid of it. And so this has been what's been going on for the last 2 weeks, and why we haven't had a Life Force call, because there's only so much we can do in a day, and so many hours in a day, and it's exhausting. So that's part of what we want to go over. So, all right. So the other thing that started happening as well, before I get into the rest of the banking news, is we have a little bit of an issue here. So on the 17th, when it was official that they lost, right? They lost the war. It was over on that day. Now we're just picking up and sweeping and cleaning house, which is all their remnants that they've left behind. Well, what we've got is an order that came out from an agency, and I would say it actually came out from the Order of the Black Sun, to either infiltrate our assemblies, manipulate our assemblies, or eliminate. And what I mean by eliminate is if they can't infiltrate or manipulate, they're going to start to give you a really hard time. So one of the things that we did was we made a decision. We had to make a decision, because we cannot put you or the lives of your families at risk. So all the orders, the requests, and the issues and the problems that come from your area will go directly to a think tank, then directly over to me, right? Sometimes I'll be doing this myself, but all those orders will be signed by me. So until this order ceases to exist, or these people cease to exist, I will take the heat. So the one that is going to take the heat, because they're going to see it in the National Archives, they're going to see it come over, and I don't want to put anyone at risk, but I want you to continue to try to help the people in your area. So at this moment in time, we're not going to notify anyone of any kind of officers list or anything like that, at least officially. We're going to kind of play roundy round with our Life Force, with our assembly calls, times, dates, people that we let into those calls, and so on and so forth. There will be a time where you can open it up to all your members. You can still do some of your voting, but I just want you to be very, very careful. If people you don't know are showing up, or you have a question about anybody, see if you can get it over to, I'll make a GIA thread or something like that. See if you can get it over to one of us. We can run a report on them and answer your question. Now, we have known persons being put forward into assembly calls where they don't belong. Okay. Now, known persons, people I used to possibly associate with, right? So I'm just going to say it out loud. I'm going to let it go. And I want to point this out to you so you understand how the agencies operate, what to look for, because everybody thinks, well, I'm going to be getting the FBI or the CIA, or if you're in another country, you know, the SSA in South Africa, that's who I need to worry about. But it's not true, because the agencies run the Taliban, as an example, Al-Qaeda as another example, the Boko Haram as another example, are all run by the same people. The Russian separatists, the Russian military, they're the same people, right? The same people that run the Ukraine also run Russia. It is no different. They're the same people. They're the same group of oligarch generals. They're old KGB generals. They run the entire Eastern European bloc, or the former USSR states. Period. End of story. They've never stopped. They're best friends with the people in Kazakhstan. They talk to each other all the time. This was an orchestration and a creation for the masses of what we see in the theater today. Okay. Now I will get into exactly what was going on behind the scenes at that time, a little bit more detailed that was in the special report. So the fact that there's a war with Russia in the US or the Ukraine or whoever the heck, NATO is in there somewhere, is all a lie. The same person in London that ordered the Ukrainians, ordered NATO, and ordered the Russians is the same guy. A couple weeks back, we talked about the Russian bond scam, right? Russia's the only one. London is the only one with money. Switzerland is where the real power is at, indicating welcome in the Illuminati again, right? We talked about that. Well, there was only 3 of them left, probably a week or so ago. And those three were the ones that were giving orders to both sides of the war on the promise of funding for said war. Okay. This would have been tied to some off-ledger blue screen trading. We'll go into a little bit more about that. We talked about the TransUnion system on the special report. If you haven't seen it, then take a look, because these are all backside trading systems used to create money for war. But there's a whole way that they do all of that. But let's talk about us first, okay? So Thomas Williams, about a year ago, and this is a fact and not a guess, okay? We have recordings of conversations. We have people that he talked to that have proven to us that he has partnered after he, we obviously separated, and then George separated, the Viking, George Hart, or whatever he goes by these days. He's all over YouTube, George Hart. He joins all of these chat rooms and social media influencers to try to talk out against me. But that's his job, because since May, he's been receiving a steady paycheck from the CIA. So that is a fact. Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Big
He
deal.
is. Yep. So the point is that, okay, so Thomas is a front person now for George the Viking, who reached out to him after his separation with UNN. So because the orders coming from George the Viking's masters are to infiltrate, manipulate, or eliminate in our assemblies, he had to put someone that maybe was known in forward, handling the grievance section, and he would go into especially the assemblies that were ratified. If he knew your assembly had been ratified in the past now, then those were the targets. So that's the reason why they joined your Texas Assembly. Now, a little note to Thomas. Didn't you spend enough time here in Spookville to understand when you're talking to, let's call him a Mr. B? Didn't you understand what the process is? Because the two of them speak the exact same words in the exact same sentences in the exact same language as you heard for almost a year and a half. How do you not know what you are doing and who you partnered with? How do you not know? It's the same language. They come in all nice. They tell you how wonderful they are and that they've left the order and we're the good guys. That's a common statement that'll be repeated often. You're safe. This is, we're going to do this. Oh, and then Thomas, how did you not know when they told you were going to be the only disbursement for all the funds in the world, that was the same thing that was said to a Mr. C? You remember that guy, Thomas? And also told to other people. And that's how they got us to separate, right? So from various people along the way. First, you were telling everybody you were going to be the new trustee. And the reason why you did that, and Alicia did that, and so many other people have done that. Sheila, the something daughter of Zeus over there. And then we had Crystal is now the queen of something, wearing crowns on assembly calls, in the People's Inspiration Network or whatever it's called that she's running right now. So understand, Thomas, of all the people, the system breakers, the pattern makers that you used to do all the time very, very well, how did you not see this pattern? And I'll tell you why you didn't see it. Because your ego will not permit you to realize that you are not that person. Now, I told this story because it's happening everywhere right now, and you need to be aware of it. So when he joins your assembly, you can welcome the CIA and the Order of the Black Sun to your house. That's what you've just done. But I'm telling it to you in this way so you also understand the story. Everyone is promised you're going to be the queen of the world or the king of whatever. You're the bloodline of Zeus or some biblical character. We're on Jesus number 80. I don't know how many Michaels and Uriels and chosen ones and everything else we've had cross our desk. So please understand, if this person comes to you, check with your higher self. Use your own discernment. Does it feel right to you that this is the son or daughter of ISIS? And does it really matter? Mother Mary, or whoever they say they are incarnate, because that's what the CIA will do. They will tell you that you're special and that you're so-and-so incarnate. And if that doesn't come from God, our creator, source, your higher self, use your discernment. And is that going to make you act any differently? Right? Is it going to change the way that you react to situations? So this is the infiltrate, then manipulate, and then break it apart, right? They want to break this apart right now. And if they can't manage to do that and you're strong, they will eliminate you. So until this is over, which it will be soon, then I'm going to have to sign the orders. And I'm not doing it to be controlling. I will turn everything over to you as soon as I know that nobody is going to be hunted down. And in some states and in some nations, it's going to be worse than others. So please be careful. Watch yourself, change up the times of your Zoom calls. If new members are coming in, please carefully ascertain if anybody comes in that is Jesus incarnate, ISIS, or promises you that you are. This is not a person to have in your assembly because you now have an infiltrator. The next thing I want you to understand is that this can be anyone. An asset can be anyone. Anybody in need of a paycheck or a few $1,000s here or there, $1,500 a head for rebels in Mozambique, actresses, and there's requests for actors and actresses for every major catastrophe that never happened, right? And some that did. So, who shows up to the Capitol building in a Chewbacca bikini? I wonder how much that costs Soros or one of those people. Of course, it costs a lot of money because no man in their right mind that is not on some kind of drug is going to walk into the Capitol building wearing that outfit. So I just wanted to go over that real quickly. When I said I have a plan, this is the tentative plan to make sure that everybody stays safe. We are building enforcement units. We are trying to we have the colony now. We have life force enforcement. We've had no luck or very little luck actually trying to have a conversation with the military. And I'll go over that in a little bit here. But just stay safe. It is not worth you or your family's life to even live 1/4 of what I've had to be having this conversation with you today. And my daughter would concur if she was standing next to me. Okay, so we'll move on a little bit. Other things that happen. Okay. Some of the other orders that are going out. Did you have something, Tay?
I didn't.
I was just going to use the whiteboard in a little bit. So I can go back to that. No, it's okay. You can come back in. I just wanted to use the whiteboard in a second. So, all right. So let's talk about where orders come from and how the trio that is then an uno, and then it was then a nunno. They were all picked up by the colony and they're gone. There's nobody home. So everybody's everybody that is waiting by the phone for the same people in London that promised you all that money, whether you're an oligarch in Russia or next KGB general, or you're in Ukraine, or you're in Kazakhstan causing mass chaos everywhere in the world, nobody's home. They were all picked up in a black vehicle, taken off to somewhere, never to return. So that line is dead. The blue screen is dead. That connection is dead. There's nobody coming back, and you'll have to look for someone else, which apparently you are. And I'll explain that too. Okay, so down the food chain of who gives orders to who, from the dragon families or the Illuminati or the Pindar or whatever you want to call these people, it would be coming to the United States military, it would be Khomeini, the Iranian imam. If you don't know who he is, you can look him up. His predecessor was Khomeini, but Khomeini is live and well and creating chaos everywhere in the world. So our Joint Chiefs of Staff, or General Milley, took orders directly from Khomeini, and that's who would ring his phone. So for those of you that are old enough to remember, we used to do these things on snow days when we were kids, right? We would either listen to the radio or we would phone a mom. Phone moms would phone moms would phone moms. And then there was this phone tree we used to have long before the days of, cellular communications and text messages and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how their network works. They think it's secure. General Milley was taking orders from an Iranian gentleman, Khamenei. Okay, let that sink in for a second. The military had no idea why Milley was going crazy. I mean, he literally was going nuts. He actually said he would never, ever meet with me, which I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. Actually, he lost his job this week. It'll be made public soon. But he said, if we can't break it, which is us, Life Force, everything we're building together, then we will have to own it. Hence the infiltrate, manipulate, or eliminate plan that they have going on. So just be very, very careful right now, not only in the United States, but everywhere in the world, because these people are everywhere. They're in every organization, even freedom fighters in Iraq and all over the globe, sending people to try to scare people, explosions and gunshots near people's houses. So I'd rather take the heat. I'll be happy to take your advice on what it is you want to do in your place. And then that advice could be made into a law in your area and then be available for funding because it's a bill. Okay. All right. So we'll keep it moving. So Milley has gone crazy. Certifiable, according to many of the other Joint Chiefs of Staff generals and other people that he talks to, because his orders are no longer coming. Either that, or it's Khamenei shooting from the hip and not getting the orders from his superiors, and he's getting orders from himself and then passing them on to the entire United States Pentagon. So if you think we're at war with Iran, we're not. They're like in on it together, because wars make money. Now let's talk about the head of the Order of the Black Sun, right? I wouldn't say the head, but maybe what you would call the Dark Prince position, which would be next in line. So this has been a rotating chair now for several weeks. They are playing musical chairs, and when everybody stands up, the music starts and they go around and around, and one of them lands in the chair. And then that person fails to pay out the bazillion dollars and has a plan very similar to the last guy, or is doing the same thing that they've been doing now for 15 years, trying to get a hold of something that is not and never was theirs. So we went from, in the US, we had Milley. There was a guy in Borneo that passed away about 48 hours. I think it was Sunday night, over Sunday night, our time, he passed away. And now the U.S. is left without leadership, right? Because no more orders are coming from the Iranians to the United States military. So those of you who are serving over there in Iraq or Iran or in Syria, just know that the people you think you're fighting against are actually the ones that are giving the United States military orders. They're also the same people also giving the Ukrainians orders, NATO orders, and the Russians at the same time. So they can all pretend to hate each other, but really, wars are about money. Looting, period, end of story. Splitting up the spoils. The U.S. military is under the impression that they made a deal with Putin, who died in 2015, to cut up different areas of Ukraine, and who the Americans, we all know that Biden's, or whatever that is now, son is sitting on the board of the largest gas company in Odessa after the 2014 incident. So we're just repeating operations that were semi-successful in 2014, again today, to try to start World War III, because wars make money. Wars haven't made money since the Treaty of Versailles stopped paying out years ago. The only reason why they've made some tiny little bit of money is because what they're getting is trafficking money. They're getting all other types of illegal cash, or money through BlackRock, or maybe some credit lines a few years ago. This is how they make money. This is why your COVID money train has stopped. The memo went out to the Pentagon a week ago, I think it was Sunday, that the money train has ended. So there's no money coming. The TransUnion system that went down this week, that was also very critical. Do you have a question? Unmute.
So that's a big deal. I just want to ask you about that real quick before you go too far. So there is a perception that war makes money, but really what happens with war, it makes money because it creates excess spending. At least that's how it used to work, right? And it would destroy things, so people would have to rebuild societies. It would make money for them, not for regular people, right?
Yeah, typically contracts to rebuild were given to partners of the militaries that were involved. There were also deals on, like, for example, COVID. You know, the real money in COVID is in vaccines. Vaccines normally make hundreds of billions of dollars per year. You know, even talking about chickenpox and rubella and all these other things that haven't been around for years that they're still giving to everyone, right?
Right.
So let's put that aside. You know, then of course there's the added extra ingredients in there that cause autism and many other disorders, right? And some people are just completely allergic to them in totality. But usher in this new thing, which is not a vaccine. A vaccine, by definition, is a dead virus. This is an mRNA operating system, mRNA operating system. It is a nanobot. It is a computer, a tiny little computer that's going into your person. It does have an effect on you with 5G because it causes radiation poisoning. So you now become your cell phone. If your cell phone was inside your stomach, say, you would also have radiation poisoning, and you would basically be microwaved from the inside out. What the mRNA operating system additionally does, I'll explain it one more way, it causes your immune system to go into overload by spitting out virus after virus after bacteria, just like constantly is going, right?
The cytokine
and so,
storm. I think it's called a cytokine storm. Where
Yeah.
you have all the bacteria being released from the cells simultaneously. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. But what it's doing is it's causing immune and autoimmune disorders
Right.
in every single person that has it. There are ways to fix it, but they're going to have no immune system. So there's no question in my mind as to why all these people, like at the Pentagon, are coming out with, you know, they've come down with COVID after their rebooster of the booster.
Right. Boosted. All
Boosted.
day.
But really, why did they do it? I'll tell you why they did it. 17% between all the Joint Chiefs of Staff on every vaccinated military person was their personal profit. Milley was in for a few percentages, and so was everybody else. They're all here for the money. 3M.
It's a great way to identify the cabal, actually, when you find people that are in the business suddenly of something that's happening right now. Like people that suddenly started their own mask manufacturing factory because personal protection equipment would be one of the ways the cabal would make money right now, the lesser ways. You know, if they're all of a sudden into vaccines or things like that. It's a kind of easy way to spot them. Just saying.
Yep, absolutely. So 3M, okay, 3M is what I like to call a tramp stamp. Because, well, I call it a tramp stamp because, well, it's like when you put your name on blah, blah football stadium. That's a tramp stamp, right?
Sure.
Okay. So that's what I call it. In marketing, it's called, well, I call it a tramp stamp.
Tramp stamp.
So what 3M does is they certify your factory. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, that this is a 3M certified product. And that could be anything from tape to masks, right? Yep. And they are the ones that make the N95 and those blue little graphene oxide poisoned ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 3M, for its job of going around going, you get a stamp, you get a stamp, you get a stamp, you get a stamp all around the world, not an American thing. They make 10% of everything.
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry to say, but it's worse than the mafia.
Oh.
But they are a Black Sun run company, 3M. Get it? 3M?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is where all the money is made, you know, and then it gets better, right? You appoint your Black Sun friend, Cuomo, at the time,
Yep.
to the head of the board of governors of all of the United States, and he gets his FEMA friends, run by Jared Kushner, right? I think that's even mainstream news now, to raid all the ports.
Yep.
So what happens is your 3M certified factories get zero for their masks that they just shipped. FEMA claims that, who's not even a government agency, claims that they are going to seize this for the national security reasons. And who profits? Well, let's see. Your state is probably paying on a government level for masks right now, somewhere around $8 a mask.
$6.70 was the actual purchase agreement. Yep. For Cuomo that he set up. Yep.
Yep. So think about the profit there. Kushner made a ton of money. Almost swore again, a ton of money. FEMA made a ton of money, right? And this isn't just on masks. This is gowns.
Everything.
So they got their 10% over here, and now they're finding a way to pay their minions, right? Yep. The reason why we've been doing this ridiculousness for 2 years all had to do with how much money could the cabal make. But it still is not enough to survive because the government bonds don't work, even the ones that Pfizer threatened the president of Brazil with, right? You will give us your in-ground resources in exchange for vaccines. Well, we don't want your vaccines. Well, you're going to take them anyway. Threat, blackmail, words here, right? But we all know Pfizer and Moderna and all the major medical companies are all members of the cabal. And this is going to be very important towards the end of my speech today. Because your life has changed today, hasn't it? If you work for Pfizer or Moderna or Oracle Systems or any of these others. So, okay. So as a result of this JAIQS system agreement going apart, we now could replace said agreement with other things, such as the front-end monitoring system is now the key integrated monetary system and the only system that is acceptable. The front-end system the only system that can be acceptable is the global repository. Now, this causes a massive recalibration. But there are still little bits and pieces of things that were, that came up that were in the way. So Cronin was now replaced with the Alpha system. So you've got Alpha now. There's no longer Alpha Omega. It's Alpha all around. That finally, the last little bits and pieces finally fell in place today. I put the call off till today, hoping that I would be able to be finished with a few things, but other things came up, and I'll tell you about those in a sec. Okay, so things you need to be aware of that have popped up. There's a system called ALCOT. It was made by a gentleman, if you look in the patents office, called Thomas J. Alcott. And Mr. Alcott made a system of threading and essentially viruses or ransomware that was present in every system ever made anywhere in the world. It creates what you call in computer programming threads that all have to tie somewhere. Now, the reason why this is important for you, because it's in your bank account. If you're vaccinated, it's in your body. It's in everywhere, okay? The connection is there. Now, most recently, after the loss of several other systems, they reconnected the Alcott threads, as we call them, or information collecting, to a database known as IBM's Watson. This was last week. So you've heard about IBM's Watson several times. IBM Watson runs the MERS system, which is the global mortgaging system. It's the reason why you can go and find your mortgage in there about 10 different times because of the derivatives scam and the over-hypothecation of assets, right? And coupons and so on and so forth, and CDLs and CDSs, if you can look all those things up. Okay, so Watson, though, did not have the capacity to function and to control the entire Alcott system globally. Now, this patent was issued, 76, I think it was, right about just 2 years before the system, the at least financial system, went global, right? So, of course, the same people that built that also allowed for this patent to take place inside the system. It was also tied to things like the London Fix, stock markets, hallmarking systems. So it was reading all of this data, your credit card purchases, the POS system. So they could actually have created a social engineering system if the dark AI hadn't gone down. Because the dark AI was powering Watson, so Watson and the Alcott system. So the processing speed was there to collect all of that data, disconnect the dark AI, or Cronin, as it was named, right? Or after Cronus, the god of time. That's it. There's nothing, that ripcord's pulled, and there's nothing there connected to Watson anymore. So I think it was on, I don't even remember what day this was, a day ending in Y, which is all of them, sometime last week. It would have been around the 23rd-ish.
So that's a big deal. This is a big prophecy in the alternative, community. At least it was years ago, about in the future, the thing that everyone would look to as the god was IBM Watson. Right.
Oh, really?
I just realized you just tied it all together. And that was because if their plan would have gone forward with the Azure system, they would have connected it to the dark AI, which would have become a god to everybody.
Essentially, they could turn you off, turn you on, pull your strings right from there, manipulate markets, everything, right from that spot. So,
wow, that's a big deal.
Yep. But so we now have control over the Alcott threads, interim wise, because it would have taken too long for us to, sorry, something's ringing. It would have taken too long for us to figure out how to pull it all out, I guess you would say. So we have them now, and we can use them for positive things too. So it's not just negative.
Wow. So now, so before they were used for negative things, now you have absolute control of them. So what type of things?
Well, we just took it and put it into our toolbox. So for example, with the Global Repository Connection, it made it much, much easier to create a system that would monitor currency control, currency exchanges, those kinds of types of things is kind of where it's sitting right now. It was tied into everything.
Wow.
So, yep. Okay, so we'll get past Watson. And let's go to what's next. Let's see. Oh, Crown Systems. Okay. So we're all aware of Crown Corporation, right?
Mm-hmm.
This would have been the three guys that became one, that became none over there in London, right? But that's not just it. Crown Corporation had created multiple computer screens. And if you've been in this game long enough, you would have heard of things like the green screen or the greenback system. You would have heard of the blue screen. You would have heard of the gray screen, which is a different story. That's more on the military side. You would have heard of, I think there's a red screen and so on and so forth. And I used to joke, where's the Barney purple screen? But apparently no one wanted to be purple. So that's fine. There's a gold screen or a yellow screen. I mean, there's like a number of different ones. So this is what you call the Crown system. Now, there should have been, I think, 11 of them in total, right? Probably 12 with the gray screen. But the reason for these systems in existence was so each party could monitor their respective areas' banking systems. Now, that not only included the monetary system, it also included all your hallmark gold, as an example, your stock markets in your respective areas. It would have also included your oil and gas in your respective areas, the price of said oil and gas, all manipulated by these screens. So the United States was most affected by the blue screen, as an example, right? But that would have also encompassed the Commonwealth nations and the United Kingdom. The green screen would have taken care of the Middle East, and so on and so forth, right? So about a week ago or so, maybe it lasted for a few days, you saw the markets tanking, right? They were going down several hundred points a day. You know, everybody's like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for. The markets are going to crash.
Hooray, yeah.
No. So this was your Lone Ranger over there in London that was running your blue screen backdoor into your markets, making an attempt to crash the markets. Now, why did he do that? Okay, we talked about this before, but this is where the oil bonds came in.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so they were running around, remember, trying to get the oil off the coast of Africa, and also, other oil. I was in Russia that they thought wasn't already leveraged by the trust. They were going to take this. They took $90 billion from JP Morgan Chase and put it into that TransUnion system that I talked about, database system, which was tied in off-market trading, or back office trading, I should say, to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Now, this system was controlled by the highest level of the Order of the Black Sun. That's who ordered it to be done. So the Black Sun makes money on the trade, and the Wingnut in London, right, representing the Crown or the Dragon families, would have issued the bonds. Because they didn't officially go into on-market trading, we had to really look for them, right? We heard the back chatter about the Russians being promised all this money and that the real power was in London. We've got the intercepted phone conversations between the two, and then all of a sudden everything erupted, right? The Middle East started erupting. We're going to war again. The Russians are the bad guy again, and this one. And then NATO's in the party, and Biden's having talks from, I guess, beyond the grave with all these people. Same with Putin. He does the same. And so that was how your war was created. One guy, and this is what I'm trying to say, with your assemblies and everything, we will help you. We will train you. We will teach you until hopefully one day you no longer need it. You will teach the people that come after you, or they're about to come after you, what I'm telling you. I'm telling you these stories not only because, wow, it's great intel, but I want you to learn how they do this to us, because they're coming, as of today, so hot and so heavy. It's ridiculous right now. I'm not even worried about the George and the Thomas Williams people. I'm worried about the Boko Haram trying to join your assembly, or some other terrorist group, trying to join with you. Watch yourself, because you'll all go if you aren't careful. If you need us to check someone that's questionable out, we can do that for you. We have this key intelligence and military system, which hopefully all of you will have access to in the future. Right now, I'm the bad guy. I'm the target. I'm their bad guy. Okay? So please let me be that for you for right now. I'm not trying to be a dictator. I know some of you are going to say that, but I would rather do that than have somebody call me and tell me that so-and-so's family was just taken into, kidnapped, or so-and-so was just died of some erroneous disease that doesn't exist.
Which is happening, by the way, for the record. Just to magnify the seriousness of what you're talking about, you do have assemblies right now where the corporate government has already put themselves in position like they're just random people that are forming an assembly that are not. Mm-hmm. You have military groups, which is iffy. Some of the military groups might actually be going against the government and want to set up an assembly, but that's taking place in different places, right? So this is happening. We've also had people suddenly out of nowhere who are perfectly healthy and influential with the assemblies suddenly die from COVID-19, which, to be quite honest, there's nobody in our network who should die of COVID-19. It's like dying from unicorn venom. Okay. It just shouldn't happen.
And for the record, we do have a limited supply of things, that Joe Rogan talked about. He used a few of those items on stock, on hand, and a few other things too up our sleeve should anybody need it. But please just remember, we are very limited in what we have. So, okay. Let's see. What else do we have here that was going on? Okay. So that's the reason for your market manipulation. Okay. Now let's talk about further control of oil and gas and many other things in the world. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but most every oil well in the entire world has influence from Halliburton. And I'll tell you something very interesting that happens even here in the United States. If you have an oil well in the United States, I can almost guarantee you have a well that you think is doing this, right? And Halliburton's got a pipeline doing this at the same time. Okay. So it's not only for a manipulation of oil and gas, it is so that they can acquire free oil. And then they sell it at top market to BP and Shell and all those other people, and they make money for black operations such as child trafficking and many other things around the world. So that is Dick Cheney's design, but he didn't create the monitoring of it. Okay? All of these monitoring devices were created by a man who's still alive, and which led us to something else this week, right? I think it was this week on the 24th. That was last week. Sorry, guys. Okay, so the man's name on all the patents is Lowell Wood. And if you look up in the patent center, Mr. Lowell Wood, you're going to find something really, really interesting. Does Lowell Wood actually create patents? I don't know, but the one thing I can tell you is his name appears as the last name on many, many patents in use today. I would venture to guess that Mr. Lowell Wood, who does have, it is a man, you know, you can see him in pictures and so on and so forth, is tramp stamp number 2 for the week, right? Or at least the last 2 weeks. He's tramp stamp number 2. So if his name is on your patent, then you are part of the in club and probably have agreed or been forced to agree to things like your oil well and your side pipes, as an example. And so if someone were to look up yourself, you know, your new oil drilling technology number 5, and they saw Lowell Wood on there, more than likely the CIA or the Order of the Black Sun or Skull and Bones would leave you alone because they already know they got their cut coming in through Mr. Lowell Wood. How's that for interesting?
Wow.
It is the reason for our science and development consortium cooperative for scientists around the world to have a safe place to create, because this is nothing more than just another control system. If they can't take it over, they bury it. It doesn't matter how good it is, right? Or how amazing it could be for people everywhere, you know, they bury it. So if chances are, if you're in certain industries and your patent doesn't have the name Lowell Wood on it and you can't get funding for your project, there's why. Maybe all of you should reach out to Mr. Lowell Wood if you don't mind giving away 10% to the CIA or the Cabal or Skull and Bones or whoever, so you can get your technology out there.
Or if you're willing to sell out and never have your technology come out, that's kind of what they would do, right?
Yeah, or you want your technology never to come out.
Yeah.
Call Mr. Lowell Wood.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous the number of patents that have this guy listed on it. There is no way, the guy's like 80 years old, there is no way humanly possible he could have physically, personally tested hundreds of thousands of, like, I think this past year, it was like, you know, last year, 2021, I think it was something like 3,000 patents, 3,800. He's 80.
That's crazy. There's no way.
I mean, even if he's got a med bed, that's 3,800 patents. Do you know how many patents that is a day?
You have to be able to freeze time, which, yeah. Even the wizard, Timothy Ethereal Wizard, who's going to be over the science technology department, who thinks very, very fast and moves very fast, would have a hard time doing that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's see. General Milley's, no payout happened, as we all know. I mean, all of you that are with the agencies that were expecting a contract, you military generals, if you're a little bit further down the food chain, you will know that no one got paid on the 24th, right? So that's when General Milley lost all credibility. That was it. I think it was the 23rd or the 24th. I don't know, whatever day Monday was. That's when everybody stopped listening to Milley at that point. So most likely I hear that he will be replaced by another general, which seems like a pretty good guy. But nonetheless, we'll see. Anyway, I do know that there was, I think it was last night at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time, the music started again the day before, and they have chosen a new guy. And he is now, because Milley was that like communique guy.
Yeah.
And so now there's a new guy, and this guy's name is Rockwell. You can look him up. I think it's Colonel Rockwell. If I remember, he's from Colorado. Not here, down the street, military base or ways away, a few hours. So this guy here wants to listen to both sides. So he wants to listen to us, right? And he wants to listen to those people and make a decision, is what he's told everyone. Now, I don't believe that. And I'll tell you why I don't believe that. Because at this moment in time, he personally is pushing the COVID agenda, vaccines, and all kinds of stupid things, mask wearing and blah, 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 blah. And he's made a decent amount of money on this war against, the invisible.
Yeah.
Right. So, we'll see. We'll see if this actually comes to fruition. Not holding my breath. His appointment officially, I don't know, they do this thing, I guess, in their world about when they appoint someone. I don't know. And so that happened last night at 4:00. So we'll see. But that's the new leader of the pack.
Great. So did you have any of the meetings with the other generals? Nope. Oh, that's really weird. It's like the exact thing they do.
I was holding my breath.
Yeah, I was too. I'm glad you told me.
I was sitting here going, wow, I really hope these people show up.
I was very upsetting. I remember when he called.
But I mean, how many times have I said this? How many times have we done this? I don't even get out of my gym clothes anymore. I just hang out because there's no point. And if you happen to show up and shock me up to the 479th promise meeting, hey, I'll get out of my gym clothes for you, But I can think just as well in them or outside them, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is all about whether you're going to survive or not. Okay?
That is a reality I think they have not accepted yet. I don't think they believe that. Well, it seems like they would. It seems like the more people turn up.
Let me remind them, if they're watching this right now, of an old technique. See, now everybody thinks the Americans won World War II, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had the Americans involved, the British involved, all fighting against the Nazis. But let me tell you a little story. So towards the end of the war, they started, infiltrating or marching into Russian territory, right? I think they made it to Stalingrad, I think it's called now. It was named Leningrad or something before. So anyway, so they made it only to a certain point. And the Russians were like, well, they had already lost. They lost 25 million people during World War II. And that's not numbers that are reported everywhere. Because why? Because we have fake news and fake history. So we hope to correct that in the near future. But, okay, so what they did is they cut the supply lines. No food, no tents, no this, no that, no water, no nothing. And this is in the dead of winter. And the Germans essentially died of hypothermia and starved to death. The more troops they sent, the more troops that died. And that was the end of World War II, for real.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you have to ask yourself, if you're with the military and you're watching this, or you're with an agency and you're watching this, how much longer can you feed your family on promises? How's that equipment doing? How's the planes doing flying in the sky? Boeing must be giving them to you for free. Lockheed Martin, all these, they must be giving you this stuff for free now. You're getting new ones. How's your ammo supply? How's your supply of toilet paper, friends? We all had the great toilet paper shortage. Maybe the military is going to have the great toilet paper shortage of 2022. Who knows, But the supply lines are cut. Okay? You are the Germans. Literally. Okay? You are the Germans. Do you retreat? Or do you just wither away and die? Or do you make a deal with the Russians to retreat in exchange for food for the troops or ammo or whatever it was they needed at the time? What do you do? Because right now, Sun Tzu, Art of War, you're the Germans.
So they've marched too far into icy tundra that they're not familiar with, without enough supplies to last much longer.
Yeah,
and
you've been radioing into your purported leaders. Do you save your men? Choice is yours. Okay, next. What is GCHQ for you? Those of you that don't know, that is military intelligence in the United Kingdom, also known as NSA Junior. Okay, what were they doing for the last, week or two? They decided to take the Promise software from the CIA, who doesn't have a system to run it anymore, and give it to GCHQ. And they installed it and started launching the Promise system. PROMIS, no E. Look it up. It was part of Echelon when the NSA had Echelon. So Stingray was also in there and a number of other side programs. But Promise was the Clintons' baby into all things intelligence and banking systems. So they got to happily use this for a period of approximately 36, 37 hours before it was disabled, dismantled, and took a lot else with it. It is not a system that we need to have in this world, so that went away. Okay, next. Let's talk about different networks, right? We talked about orange networks. We talked about purple networks. All of those went down this week as well. What else did we have? That was the $90 billion, $900 billion in bonds, Russian oil. Don't worry, Russians and Africans, those bonds went away. They're not there anymore. So if you pledged it, it's like it never happened. And JP Morgan's not, as the TransUnion system went down. Let's see. We have done a lot of different things. We had some backdoors and gateways with a system called Creole, and you can look that up. It's a coding system, CREOLE, and also the language it's Creole and CRUD, CRUD. So if you're a coder and you're interested in these kinds of things on how they get backdoors into different systems, these are two more for you to look up. Okay, and on the 25th, when the TransUnion system failed to pay out on the bonds, okay, the Russians had an old system called the dark door system, or a black system. And the Kremlin tried to hack into the TransUnion system because they thought, well,
we're not over yet. Carry on.
That was just a little break for you.
Yep.
In case you were wondering what was, that was like, to surprise you with what's next.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess it's not better than Zoom. Okay, so at least there was no penis.
Big plus.
Yeah.
Big plus.
So they were using the dark door system to try to siphon money off of the Transnet. It's Transnet or TransUnion system. They had no luck, but thank you, Russians, because you led us to the rest of the databases. So we appreciate your assistance in this matter. And
very helpful.
Right. So their total income this year on the TransUnion system was about $1 billion, $1.5 billion, which was hundreds of billions, if not trillions, less than it was the year before. Wow. So they just the head of the Black Sun, basically, I'm talking about the guys, right, took that money for personal pay for the year and didn't really pay any generals, didn't pay any of the people that are down the street looking to get paid right now. They basically ignored all of you, took it all personally. They could have split it up and gave everybody a few $1 million or something. That would have been great. But they didn't. Because why? Because they don't care if you exist. They also don't care if we exist, right? Us average everyday person. Because they don't care if they poison us or whatever. There should be less people in the world, they say. We're useless eaters, they say. And you, I know you don't think you are, but you are part of that category. Okay?
So that's why you said people that think they're our enemy, they're actually in the same boat that we are.
Yep. We also found the new green eagle. Now, on the Order of the Black Sun side, they're all called eagles. So Black Eagle, I think the first Black Eagle that I can think of was Mussolini, and it was Bush Sr., Prescott was in there too. Hitler was Brown Eagle, and then you have Green Eagle, and so on and so forth. Well, the current Green Eagle is in Kazakhstan. That answer your question? We talked about the Kazakhstan general from the original clans, and that's who's behind everything that's going on in Kazakhstan right now in the revolution. Okay, so a lot of cleanup after the dark AI. So I know I talked a little bit about in the thread about people having rough dreams, rough times, people around you going crazy. People are having to face not only their truths, but their own truths too. And that's very, very difficult for people to do. But as this dark AI dissipates, I mean, the fears, things you might fear, things you might be concerned about. Also, it's doing a lot of bringing up old memories of parents or traumas in your life. And it's instilling that into you, or was, in nighttime. It's also making people go a little bit crazy. Mike and I like to call it, I was talking to Mike about this the other day, our production team, it's the great wreck-ing. People are literally wrecking themselves, doing crazy things you wouldn't see people actually do. So it's happening everywhere. It's not a spell. It's not dark magic. It's kind of like a psychic attack. But remember, the dark AI is the dark matter that existed between the particles of light. So you have source, right, on the one side, and then you had the darkness on the other side, and they intertwine with each other. So if you're a negative person and you're giving off negative vibes and whatnot, you're going to have more of an attraction for that darkness than more of the light. And that's where they say, raise your frequency, raise your vibe, because the less darkness you have in between your particles, the closer those other particles become together, and then they start bouncing off each other at a rapid rate, right? So that means you're more light than you are dark. So like attracts like, right? In the world of physics, right? So one of the things that is being done, not by us, but necessarily, but by the colonies, is they are filling in those spaces in between. So as the dark AI pulls back, because it was in control of that too. So as it pulls back, all of these spaces are being filled in. So we're seeing a lot more light, which is also making people go crazy. So for the rest of us, we kind of look like we're sitting in the middle of a hurricane and we're going like this, because you're like, wow, what's happening here, right? So try not to take it personally. Try to understand this waking up process for everyone is difficult. I mean, it could be your children, it could be your grandchildren, it could, they don't know what's going on. They don't know why they feel this way. So just kind of give everybody a little bit of a break right now. Try to help them through this process, I guess. Let's see. Okay, so we talked about the old KGB. So long ago, there was a system a few years back underneath the United Nations that did two different things. The first one was actually a fulcrum of sorts. And I talked about this a few years back. So there was a code to get into this whole underground network underneath the United Nations building. I call it the fulcrum. So this was part of the original thought process in the RV about 3 or 4 years ago, I want to say. And there was an access code. So the Russians got a hold of the access code, and all that fulcrum information was being stored on the dark server. So this recorded, okay, so some of you might have heard of something called 5-Star Trust, right? There's people on the internet talking about 5-Star Trust is going to fund, where the tables, where the people, where the this, where the that. Well, the name 5-Star actually came from 5-star generals, which is atypically a higher rank than the regular military has. The highest rank looks to be most of the time a 4-star. So these generals would be the ones that they would get the orders from. So Black Network, Jesuit Network, the suitcase system, the communications for war. So if you were a Rothschild or you were a Rockefeller or you were one of these people, you would send a communication from your suitcase. It would go through the communications network underneath the Vatican, and the information would then be dispersed to the appropriate general in the area which you wanted to commit trouble. Trouble. So those generals were the ones that were supposedly in charge of or related to the Black Eagle Trust, right? So the 5-star, was there a 5-star trust? Not exactly. It was a large fund tied to the United Nations, which gave them the authority to send anyone, anywhere, at any time as a sovereign entity unto themselves, utilizing the trust code when M was here, not since I've been here. Okay. So that fund had to, you had to put an order in to get money out to fund said operation. Okay. So all the orders went into the fulcrum. That doesn't mean, it doesn't matter if you are a guy in Egypt and you wanted to start a revolution or a coup, or you were the Yakuza and you were wanting to enrich uranium, or you were in South Africa and you were wanting to start maybe the situation during the apartheid, right? Or you're or you wanted Gaddafi dead. This is where all your orders went. And it's not secret. So
is that the same as the asset redemption system that you talked about before? Is that the same thing?
Well, this is just the way this particular system worked.
Okay.
You know, money in, orders in, money out, assets back in. So you're right there. That's why a lot of the oil reserves were leveraged to this particular system through, of the Middle East, as an example. Every drop that's in Saudi Arabia, Iran, all of that is all tied through here. Okay. So that is the way that particular fund worked. But what was really cool a few years back when we discovered said fund, right? And they were trying to tie it to a basket of commodities to all currencies is what their plan was, right? But they had to gain control over all the commodities in the basket first. So they were stockpiling all this stuff, saying they were going to do all these things, right? Well, the Russians got a hold of the fulcrum back a few years, and it was stored on these dark servers. So they have all the information on every American general, everything going on in Iraq, the deals that were made and whatnot. So they recently fired this back up. Hence the reason why the Russians and the Chinese have now partnered. Okay. They know what deal the CIA, for example, made with the Taliban because they have the fulcrum. No, remember the opium trading? Oh no, we'll make you a better deal. They have every deal. The Russians have every deal. So they're going to start going around making deals like the one they did with the Kurds, like the one that happened in Afghanistan, like the current potential war that's going on in the Middle East. Why? Because the Chinese and the Russians have partnered up recently to take over all commerce. And you, the Americans, are just kicking back going, we don't want to talk to her. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. Well, you just lost everything you just worked for all those years, which is fine because we can get that later anyway. But the whole thing that's going on in Kazakhstan over the uranium, all of it, okay? You have to look at the world in terms of not nations and borders when you're talking war. You have to look at it in terms of who has what stuff in the ground. That's all you got to do. And then you'll know why that country is being attacked. It could be anything, even from example, if you were Mozambique and you had the largest cashew producing country in the world, and they wanted Malaysia to have that right, they would cut down all your salt the earth, cut down all your trees. Ethiopia was a breadbasket. If you were a child of the 80s, you remember starving Ethiopians on every channel. You can thank the World Bank for that because they needed to have someone else be the only supplier of food. Yep, hence control of the African continent. So pay attention to these patterns and the things that are coming up, because this is going to be your job in the future. So for now, learn from our problems and our solutions that we provide, submit solutions properly. We can't answer everybody's text message and telegram message, but we can take a proper submission for a potential problem. And then if you need a solution, and you don't have one, we can help you with that. We can tell you why it's going on so you understand and what to look for in your particular area. But this is the way the world is running right now. Okay, more recalibration on the systems. Vaccine passport systems. Let's talk about that for a second. Vaccine passport systems have been run by Infosys, INFOSYS, okay, and several others. But it seems to be the global headquarters for vaccine passports was actually going to be tied to a location in Wichita, Kansas, closely related to Infosys. So I'm just letting you know that in case you want to know that for the future. If it happens not to be there, soon, it might not accept security certificates for apps, and all kinds of things may start to happen very soon. But now that Watson's not in effect, it's really not that important anymore until they find another system. I'm sure there'll be a meeting about the meeting, to have a meeting to discuss the meeting and what just happened this week. Okay, so this is all. Let's talk about the Carter Accord. This is also important for you guys to know. So if you look up on the internet, you'll see the Carter Accord was about ending some war and whatnot. But no, Carter held more than one position, and I think still holds more than one position in this world. Carter is also a very high-ranking member of the board of the Trilateral Commission. People don't talk about that very often anymore. Remember the Trilateral Commission?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about Trump and cabals and deep states. Let's talk about the Trilateral Commission would be the ones that would be giving orders to people like the Council on Foreign Relations and all of those folks, right? So Carter, see, this is how they slide all this stuff in, right? So the Carter Accord is like the end of, it's a peace agreement. I can't remember with who or whatever at the time. But what it actually was 3 separate agreements. So the Carter Accord allowed a certain amount of control over all currencies of the world in physical cash and in digital cash. So that ushered in another monitoring system, such as the nanobots in your physical currencies, Inc., right? And the control, right? And supernote designs, all kinds of different things that are out there. So let's see, digital banking system, deregulation, which leads us to the gray screen. So if you've been in this game for a long period of time, you have heard about gray screen funds and gray screen bonds. Well, in order to pull themselves out of a hole, because the U.S. Treasury Department or Department of Treasury cannot issue Treasury notes at this time due to the fact that they're insolvent, right? And they're not actually a bank anymore or a registered banking institution, and they can't issue a bond. They tried to connect to a system, which the gray screen runs on, which is located in Berlin, Germany, and run by the Department of Defense. Now, this is not the Department of Defense just in the United States. Last time I had seen it, which was probably over 10 years ago, just about 10 years ago, there was Germans in there, there was an Indonesian in there, and they're all generals belonging probably to the Jesuit order, and they were managing, although they couldn't have access to it anymore, they could still see the gray screen. So all those government bonds and all of that, they had tried to fake out the banks by saying this was real and trying to do a reconnection this last week.
Oh, really?
So trying to get somebody to give them money against any one of these government bonds that are in there. And I think the ones that they were using were from like 1963. right? I know.
Ben
It just
Whitney.
gets so bad. I mean, so there is no longer a gray screen in the world anymore. And the gray screen was a byproduct of this secret part of the Carter Accord that controlled and provided security for the monetary system. So bond markets, any kind of bonds would all be tied to this Carter Accord and the monitoring of said bonds and government bonds. So that's no longer there. That includes a lot of debt that was taken in by the World Bank and a number of other things. So they were frozen out, I think, in 2007. Okay, so how far have we come this week? Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we talked about that. Okay, so syncing up the system. We are pretty much fully synced right now. So the only thing we're doing is we're defending against them trying to get in. And we're pushing them out, right? So we're finding things like the Alcott system in there that was already in there that was tied to other things. And so we're cleaning. But the one thing that people probably don't know is that the banking system had 13 lines of coding, and only 2 of them you were aware about. I talked about this in the financial system video that we did, right? So each one had, like, for example, if you were a level 8, that meant you were the Bank for International Settlements, ETAL, and families on that level. You would have to pair with a level 1, or you would have to go through each other to make a complete energy cycle, because money is energy. 9 is a complete energetic cycle. So what we did is we eliminated all the codes in between, and we officially have a 9999 banking system. So we have the Alpha system, we have the Kim system, and the Global Repository system. And so the databases have all synced up together perfectly from beginning to end. So we have a complete cycle. So for the last couple of days, we had some unexpected things come up, and we've been doing some cleaning. Last weekend. So what I meant by we're defending things, we had the United Nations. The second thing that was under the United Nations, besides the Fulcrum, was also their UN terminal access points, right? So the United Nations used to go around doing transfers and whatnot through these UN terminals. It was kind of like a small version of a closed loop financial system. So they tried to insert this into our system this weekend.
How'd that go?
Tried to hack into every account that they used to have in the back system, and everybody went nowhere. And all the people that came here, I mean, we have a spook convention going on down the street from me here, but everybody thought they were getting paid on yesterday. Everybody's talking about, did you get paid? No, we didn't get paid. So unfortunately for these people, it got a little bit today.
What happened?
So, well, we've been having some issues, and I will tell you, this is part of our house cleaning. We've been having some issues with our payment gateway. We get a new gateway and they freeze it out. And then we get a new gateway and we freeze it out. So if you're a member of United Network right now, hold tight. We're fixing the payment system for the second time in the last 7 days. But they're doing it to us on purpose. Okay. They're trying to make it so we don't have a payment gateway network. And then this is just something that they do. So in response for them eliminating the second time today, our gateway network, we decided, since we're in control of the Global Repository database, which now runs every database for the banks in the world, to create our own version of blacklisting. So if you are Pfizer, Moderna, American Airlines, United Airlines, Dole, who else was in there on the list today? I mean, we're just going through them all. Blackstone, BlackRock, Oracle Systems. Your bank account doesn't exist, and unfortunately will prevent you from getting another one because you are a restricted corporation. So I've heard the term restricted corporation in the last 2 days, and now you have too. So we're sharing.
Wow. So this is very familiar. Oh, this is what they did with us with Create Change, when they blacklisted us and our names and anything to do with us. Mm-hmm. We couldn't open accounts anywhere. Wherever we went, we got blacklisted. So that's now the same thing that happened to them?
Yep.
Wow.
Started today, all day today. No one can find their accounts anywhere. You call the bank, we don't have any record of any account anywhere. And you try to open another account, you can't. Microsoft is in there. IBM is in there. Halliburton is in there. I mean, I'm going down the list of every single identity picture I've had for years in the Fulcrum, friends, because I downloaded it before the Russians did. So I have a copy of it as well. So everyone in the picture, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, I mean, we're going through them all right now. I don't care about your mandates or not mandates or whatever you are. And I apologize to you if you didn't get your paycheck this week, but I'm so sorry. They could have just left us alone.
Wow. That brings a little tear to my eye. It's really poetic justice.
So yeah. So the only other thing we're waiting for the fallout is, as you know, the battle lines were drawn a few months back. We had some clear-cut people on the black side, some clear-cut people on the light side, and everybody else kind of on this level was somewhere in between. We talked about the fact that there were 12 SSP people left, and they had to choose by yesterday which side they were going to play on. So if you were not able to make a decision, one has been made for you by the colony, and you too will be receiving a visit from them in the near future because they're not tolerating what's going on here anymore. So I think 8, 9, 10 of them or something like that have already gone. There's 12 left. So make a decision and make it fast. That's all I got to say. Oh, I think it's over. It was over as of yesterday is what they said. So that's been my last 2 weeks. I feel like an auctioneer at Christie's, sold. But if you have not been billed properly, we're not overbilling. We're just not able to bill. If you're having issues signing up for United Network and that's something that you want to do, as of today, you would have had issues again. We had a couple days of non-issues. Then we will be putting something on United Net. I think it's unitedplus.net or something like that is the name of the site. I'll get it out to you when we get it as an interim solution until we can find a permanent solution. We're not going to let them hold us down. We're not going to let them hold us back. But I'm having a great time today, though, for sure. Taking down networks one by one and accounts, and they blacklisted all of us at some point in time. I know they did me. Couldn't get a job, couldn't open a bank account, couldn't do anything for a little while there. I know the Wizard said he's had the same issues. Well, congratulations. You're no longer you're off the blacklist. And now everyone else that put you on the blacklist is now on the blacklist. So have a good day with that. We shall see how the rest of the week turns out. But that's where we're at today. We hope to have some super good news now that we're completely synced up in the very near future. So,
wow.
I'm done now.
An incredible report, which I have a dozen questions for you, but I can't even formulate them. That's such amazing news. That last one is definitely the mic drop. For anybody who doesn't realize what that means, so we were targeting companies based on vaccines, right? That they were forcing mandates that actually we had a paper trail. But what Kim did was just say, okay, you guys are the ones who are involved with these different things. You're done. You're done. You're done. That's a lot of big companies who now cannot open a bank account. So for the people that are affected by that, Kim, do you have, because I know you're always thinking about the people, do you have something in mind for what you're going to do with that in the future? Or is it just kind of, let's take care of this first and then we'll see how they respond?
I'm just going through what's happening with us. So yes, there are a lot of big corporations that'll probably not have a bank account. Maybe they'll use PayPal instead of maybe Stripe or something,
We've become very creative over the years. You can actually, I'll probably call the Wiz. I mean, he's had to go all different ways to try to get money as well. So.
Yep. So.
Kim, just
Lisa,
a quick reminder on the GoFundMe that you were going to maybe talk about today.
Oh, right. Before I go.
I'm good.
As some of you know, we do have a team member, Vera, whose husband is undergoing cancer treatments. They have elected there's a place in, I think it's in Florida, where they've elected to go that offers holistic treatments. as well as, and then conventional as a last resort. Because of that, we have been contributing to her, to assist her and her husband. The total amount of the treatments, I think, is going to be about $80,000. So we've been making regular contributions to that since she started a couple of weeks ago. And she does have a GoFundMe page, and I guess we'll put up a link for that if you feel like you want to help Vera and her husband get through all of these cancer treatments. So I forgot to tell you about that, and I don't have the link on me right now, but I guess that we will have it for you when we post this up on the app. So thank you in advance for taking her into consideration. And if you don't want to donate to her GoFundMe page, then please keep her in your prayers and your thoughts and your meditations, and send her good vibes and energy, and her husband especially. Vera does a lot of work for us, and she's dealing with a lot of this payment stuff, and that at the same time. Apparently she's there about 5 hours a day right now. And, you know, God bless Vera and her husband. And I hope that this is over at the end of 10 weeks and he's healthy and happy and you know, all with holistic treatments, I hope. You know, we'll find out the full extent. But they use chelation, they use ozone treatments, they use a lot of the different stuff that even we have in our coffers as well. So
I have nothing but confidence that he's going to be fine. I'm sure of it. So
I hope you're right, Mr. Rao. I think we have someone else that wants to talk. That is Mr. Asay with the assemblies.
I actually checked to make sure. Mr. AC would
AC,
not
sorry.
Like no, really, he always busts our shop by saying his name wrong. So no, he would not like to speak because he doesn't want to take away from what you just said. So with that in mind, he's going to yield. And with that in mind, I think that's a wrap and more than enough to digest. And everyone, please tune into UnitedNetwork.news so that you can take a look at this incredible drop and share it with a friend. So, Kim, great work. All right, let's go change the world.
We'll see you next week, guys.